Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Burlington. It is me, Mars, and today I have got something different for you. So last week we did the university, and here it sits. It's quite happy, it's purring away quite nicely, the traffic's not too bad. Everyone's using the buses like they're supposed to. It is awesome. It looks really, really good actually. The train station is always packed as per usual. Boom, there you go. Excellent, works perfectly. Great, love it, love it. Today I've got something different. This whole area here is gonna go, and we're gonna chuck in an airport. We're gonna redo this whole airport over again. This whole area isn't quite working, the traffic was always a bit weird, this intersection never worked very well. So I figured I'm just gonna redo the whole thing. I've done it a few times and I finally come up with a design that I'm happy with. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, so once again, here I am, deleting. Everything had to go. This was actually pretty painful because I had already detailed all of this area and I put a lot of time and effort into it, so it's a bit of a shame to see it go, but it sucked, to be honest. Like, it just wasn't working. So yeah, so this is it. Like, I've redone the entire airport. As I said, I have done this like 3 or 4 times before. Had a crack at it and had to go, and it just didn't quite work out, and I had another crack at it and it just didn't look good, or didn't work. I'm just like, okay, cool. So I thought I'd have one more shot at it, and yeah, it actually came out really quite nice. So it's a nice little airport, a lot like Burlington. It's not super over the top or anything, it's quite modest. It does have all the connections and everything like that. I've got a train line connected to it, I've got the monorail linking up to it. I actually haven't got bus stops yet in there. I should put some bus stops in there, but yeah, it's got all like the mod cons and connections, and they're all being used by the pedestrians too, which is really, really cool. So I do this really cool sort of pedestrian flyover as well, because I know that airports produce a lot of pedestrians, so they use it very aggressively. I had to actually muck around with the streets and stop them using the zebra crossings, then force them to use the paths, and you see that later on. It's actually pretty cool when you see it happen. They all just like divert, big massive crowd just diverts in a different direction. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, so pretty much the whole concept and idea was I just sort of make a little square sort of turnaround area. I threw the what are they called? The hangars? They're not the hangars. The terminal. That's the word. Oh man, my brain just went completely blank. So just throw it. Yeah, so I put the terminals just sort of U-shape, and it worked quite well. Then I threw these sort of car parks and train stations out the front, and I was just trying to come, like here, I'm just trying to come up with some sort of crazy idea for a, like trying to link them together to do double roundabouts or something, but it didn't work. So I ended up doing these big oval roundabouts on either side, and it gets a little bit crazy later on actually. Like, you can kind of see, like, I'm just sort of mucking around and like placing and editing, deleting and moving and changing and moving and changing. And like, I actually removed a lot of this video. Like, it's about 3 or 4 hours worth of footage that I chopped down to like 20 minutes, after speeding it up of course, but still, like, I chopped a good, I imagine probably 2/3 of it, just to sort of make it all work. Like, so pretty much all you're seeing is me putting down the sort of the final part. There is a few here, like the train station changes. In a moment you'll see that. So here you go, train station deleted, and I add another one because I sort of realized that I needed to get the road underneath the train line, and having a elevated train line is definitely very superficial. Oh, sorry, very beneficial here. So pretty much what I ended up doing is just putting a little roundabout against that. So now you've got these 2 roundabouts that sort of loop into another roundabout, and that also links into the big roundabout that goes past the terminals. So yeah, it's a lot of roundabouts, I guess. But hey, it works. Like, you know, the traffic flows really well, so you know, I can't really argue about that. And it looks pretty cool too. Like, it's fairly unique, and like all airports, you know, they always tend to have all these roads and crazy car parks and stuff everywhere. So, you know, it fits the brand, I think, and like it fits Burlington as well. Like, it looks really, really cool, and I think it's super nifty. So, and yeah, so as you can see, like, I changed the roads, and I changed the roads again. I changed the roads again. Like, there's so much trial and error, and like I kind of like halfway through this project, I kind of expected, oh, I'm just gonna scratch this one and just redo it again, like I've done 3 or 4 other times. But now, then I sort of play with it a little bit further, and it keeps coming together. I'm like, oh, that works, and I just keep going, I guess. So, like here, I'm using those airport mods with the runways and whatnot, and they can work really well sometimes, and sometimes they don't. I know a good trick is to actually lower the speed of the brakes and acceleration on the planes, and then they end up using the entire length of the runway, opposed to just like as soon as they touch the runway, the nose just goes into the air and they take off. Like now they actually work properly if you do that. There's a few tutorials around and stuff if you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's pretty easy to do. So here, this is like right in the middle of the terminals. I didn't really know what to do with this sort of space, like it's just sort of a bit of an open green space. I really couldn't put any shops or anything there. It would have been too cluttered and too messy, so I just sort of, you know, just sort of line up this garden and throw some trees in there later on as well, and it works really, really well. So yeah, this is the part here where I start linking up those pathways, because you can see all the people are just streaming across the car parks, and it's just this massive, massive flow of people coming through. So that's why I built the little footbridges over the top, but first off, they don't actually start using them. So you see here they are, they're all pouring up to the top there, and they're just blocking the traffic, like it's just like a solid wall of people. So that had to go, like I had to change that. So I ended up finishing off these pathways, specifically linking it to the right here to the actual main road, and that path is that same pathway that goes all the way back to the Arc de Triomphe. With that massive stream of people. This is where they all come from the airport. So it was, I think, just about at this point around here where I sort of realized what was happening. I had to like stop them from using the zebra crossings and force them to use the above passageways. And it worked quite well. As you see in a second, where is it? Roughly, oh maybe not. Oh, here I am. I'm adjusting. Yeah, there you go. There. So they're all pouring across the road, and then all of a sudden they start pouring up those stairs. It's nuts. Those sports fans are crazy. Eh? Like, it's such a huge number of people that come in, and it looks a bit ridiculous because they're all wearing the same color, and that's like my sports team color. I didn't realize until I actually visited the stadium again and realized that was just the color that I picked. I didn't, have any affiliation to that green color. I don't support any teams or anything that are green. I just sort of picked it out. I'm like, oh, that looks nice, that'll do. And then I sort of realized afterwards that there's like these massive crowds of green people are all here just to support the local football team. Or, no, I think it's football. But yeah, so it's a bit strange how it does that. There must be a mod to fix that, but I haven't bothered looking. So anyway, here I am just putting some extra details around the airfield, just sort of making it feel more like an airfield by putting like some fences and stuff around it. And this is where I start actually putting a lot of detail into the car parks, and it actually came out really, really nice. It turns into like a really nice sort of green space. And it's actually very, very simple. Like pretty much all I did was just surround all of the spaces with this pink little hedge. Which is really, really nice little hedges. Well, I think it's pretty much one of the vanilla hedges. All I did then was just fill in the spaces with this small bush shrubs I think it's called, and then just use sort of random trees and stuff, just filled it up. Threw a bunch of pine trees in there because palm trees, because palm trees always make stuff look fancy, even if they're not in a tropical setting, which is kind of weird because, normally they just look tacky and out of place, but I mean, for some reason palm trees just always seem to work. I guess it's just so ingrained in Western society to have palm trees at fancy places that if you just want to make something look more fancy, you just stick a palm tree in it. But anyway, it works. But I find that like a lot of places like this, they have a lot of, big gardens and stuff like that around all their green spaces, just to make them, look a little bit prettier and a bit nicer to be in. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm just sort of just detailing it and putting it through. It's like, there's actually a lot of work because there's heaps of like little triangles and little spots and little areas where there is grass. And it took me, as I said, like this original footage was like 3 or 4 hours worth of footage. So it took me quite a while just to sort of just work through it. And I tend to be one of those people that, I sort of start here and I do a little bit, and then I'll move somewhere else and I'll do a little bit, and then I'll come back to the first thing and I'll do a little bit. I'm really bad at starting and finishing a project from like start to finish. So yeah, it's really kind of hard for me to just go, oh cool, I'm going to do all the gardens now and just do all of the walls and then all of the bushes and then all of the trees, and then, like some people do, they just like systematically work through it, and like that's really tedious for me. So I find that I do a little bit here, I do a little bit there, but it's not so bad at this airport. And like after, I look back at the footage and I sort of edit it and I chop it together, and there's a lot of me just looking at what I'm doing. Like I'll zoom out and then look back and look forward and then zoom in, zoom out, and then zoom in, zoom out, and then look around. Just admiring what I'm doing and seeing if it looks cool, if it looks right, and I edit all of that out, because when you speed that up, it's very jagged, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it looks really, really horrible. So yeah, I just sort of cut all that stuff out, and it's just me literally just mucking around. It's just fluff and filler, so I just get rid of it. So what you see is actually a very, very refined, cut down version of what I was doing. Like, as I said, from that point from when I did that last part under the bridge to this part here where I'm doing the big garden, like that would have been 15-20 minutes apart of just, you know, just me looking around and going, well, what can I do next? What can I do next? Should I do this bit? Should I do that bit? And I'm like, oh, I should probably just continue doing the gardens because that's what I'm doing. And then I come back to doing the gardens. So using Move It and using those mods and stuff, like, yeah, copy pasting that was so easy. It works so well when it works out. I actually use it later on when I'm filling in the vegetation around the entire airport. I just sort of, you know, select a square and just stamp it. It actually, you know, because it's just bush and background, it works quite well. So, you know, it saves you a lot of time having to, like, you know, place individual trees everywhere. And as you can see, I'm still doing these gardens. There's so many of these gardens. I actually think I've actually edited some of it out because from here on I now move out from around the airport and start doing the sort of surrounding areas. And this was quite, you know, all over the place as well. Like, I found that I had to go through a lot of this and just sort of cut it all down to just the basic building bits, you know, like, because there's a lot of like me looking and comparing, and then I'll build a bit and delete it, and then I'll build a bit and delete it, and I come back to it and whatnot. So like, I didn't really have like a really solid plan when it came to this. So it's just, the idea was, oh, I'm just going to sort of fill in the area around it. And that's why it's sort of kind of half left undone. Later on I do come back to it off camera and fill it in, which is really, really good. So here, this is where I'm just sort of starting to like sort of fill in the area for the big commercial area. There's a few nifty tricks that I use as well. Like, for example, I upgrade that to an avenue and then make one road a double lane one way, and then the other road a double lane coming back again. So it's pretty much splitting the avenue in half, but around a block. So it's really good for traffic flow because all the traffic flows in one side, it goes into all of the commercial area, and then it flows out the other side. And it also pairs up to the avenue really nice and neatly too, with a very little, you know, disturbance to an intersection, because you can just have it flow straight through, and it actually moves really quickly. And I do that quite a lot. You see me do it here as well. In this area, I tried to also make sure that there's a big avenue like every 2 or 3 roads, because, you know, everyone knows that the industry creates a massive ton of you know, traffic. So there you go. So there's 2 roads and an avenue, and then 2 more roads and an avenue. And I do the same thing as well at the end of this avenue. So this is a one-way street that comes in, and then another one-way street that goes out. And it lines up to the same side of the avenue, so the traffic can just flow straight through. And it's really good to have those cross-flowing roads. And I have the same thing here. Yeah, so the 2 main roads that go perpendicular, one of them's a one-way street going one way, one of them's a one-way street going the other way. That way the traffic sort of flows and loops, opposed to all the traffic just getting gridlocked on every grid. Now, what I'm doing here is something I've done for ages, actually, is like zoning. So I'm actually just zoning a whole bunch of different zones, because I break it into different areas. And then later on, I just use the zone areas, and I just make one ore, and then one forestry, and then one, you know, the other one. And then I just sort of have, so I have one area of everything. Because my city at the moment is, even though technically I'm not currently playing, it's still like begging for all that stuff, and I just can't help but be a sucker and just sort of hand it to the game a little bit and go, alright, cool, here's your industrial area. But also, I mean, like, every real city has big industrial areas like this anyway, so, you know, you kind of need that too. And I had to put another big trash area right in the center of it, because, oh man, I need so much trash. Like, my garbage is such a huge problem in this city, and I'm like, thank God I've always got it on the cinematic mode, because you're hiding all of the hundreds and hundreds of full garbage cans that need to be emptied. But I added another one here anyway, because I think there was one there previously, and I sort of removed it. But yeah, so this is sort of coming towards the end of the video. Like, this is the part where I'm just sort of like just doing the final detail and just filling in all the vegetation and whatnot. It's, you know, it's tedious and sort of fiddly, and I try to keep it kind of simple. Like, you know, like I put like the low bushes at the bottom, and then throw a couple big trees in, and then throw a couple big trees of a different size or color. Just to sort of mix it up a little bit. So you can see those bushes are quite light, and then those guys are quite dark, and I'm just sort of filling the spaces. Like, I'm not putting too much effort or detail into it. Once again, like every one of my other videos, I'm not trying to go super high detail or anything. Just make it look good from a distance. And I think I might have actually gone a little bit overboard, but I'm really enjoying putting this vegetation stuff down, and you know, as my skills get better with this game and with the detailing, I'm sort of getting into it a bit more, but my poor computer is struggling to load everything. Like, oh my god, like I now know like every YouTuber you see that does City Skylines at one point will complain about how their poor computer getting absolutely cooked, because this game is so thirsty when it comes to RAM, and yeah, like I gotta run it quite slowly just to make it all work. And like when I play it on just like the native 1920 by 1080 resolution, even though I've got a massive big ultra wide screen. I literally play it in a window just so it runs smoothly, and then when I do the recordings I then bump that up to like 400%, so for the resolution, so it looks nice and sharp. But poor computer's struggling the whole time. The fans are just cranking. It's water cooled as well, but my fans are cranking really hard just to manage that temperature. But yeah, so this is pretty cool actually. Like this part, I did muck up that first on-ramp. I actually put it on the wrong side. It's kind of weird, just a force of habit maybe, but I had it coming into the left side and realised a little bit later that I made a mistake. But pretty much this is the big interchange that was originally part of the map. So I just kind of added to it and added this new road coming into it. So I just had to link it up 3 different directions in each way, and I used the whole Biffa's lane mathematics to make sure that I've got 2 lanes splitting into 1 each and 3 lanes into whatnot. So, and it actually worked really well, and hopefully I have set it up nice and neatly the first time, so I don't need to come back and revisit it again and again and again, which I have done with a few of my intersections, like the Arc de Triomphe, for example, which you saw in a previous episode. So, but I think I quite like how this all came out. It's it actually works really well. It's nice and smooth. Like, it doesn't seem like it's too out of place. Hey, sometimes you add new lanes to an interchange, and it's just like blatantly obvious that you've just sort of upgraded it. Well, I don't think that's the case with this one. Like, I think it looked really good. Like, it came together quite nicely, and as you can say, it worked really well. I feel as though, it just looks part of the original sort of design. Well, kind of. You'll see anyway what I mean. It's actually a lot easier than I thought, because I just pretty much put these 3 lanes together and just went bam, 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 made the little triangles. Like, oh, well, okay, yeah, hey, that works. You can, go left one way or go right the other direction, and that's it, done. Too easy. So normally, you have to put 3 lanes, 1 going each direction, but in this case it's just 2, because the other one just split into 2 and went in 2 different directions. So as I said, it just sort of came together nicely, and it worked. It worked really well. Alright. That's right, I had to add the 1 extra lane right at the end, and I just kind of sort of laid it on the ground, turned it into, above ground road, and just lifted it. Like, it was just so much easier that way than trying to make a bridge over bridge over bridge. I just sort of drew the one big curve, and it was just super easy, and then just had to change the adjustment for the height and change the ramp at the end there, and it's pretty much done. Like, that road at the end there was actually really easy to put together, and that's the thing I like about this, is that you always kind of find new techniques, new ways of making it a lot easier. Like this, for example, as I said earlier, this is that stamp I was just using. I just sort of grabbed a square of trees and just went ham with it, and then got a bigger square even, and just continued the way. So this is pretty much the end of it. What I was doing here is just doing a big massive overlap of the city. I don't really have any of those sort of blends of the old one to the new one in this one, because once again, because I completely changed everything, yeah, it was just totally pointless. Like, it was such a huge change that anything from previous to what it is now just doesn't look anything near the same. And as I said earlier as well, just this road to the front of the river here, like I've actually filled that in now, off camera, just to sort of fill in the area around the airport. But as you can see, I do have this massive, big, huge tarmac area. I do really want to put some more details in there, but that means I'm going to have to download more mods. Like, there's those cool little yellow and black arrows and lane markers and stuff like that. I wouldn't mind filling out that whole field with all those kind of little fiddly things that you see floating around the airfields, because it is definitely a very big green open space, and it does look very sparse. It kind of looks like a model-like. But other than that, I'm really happy with how the little airport came out. I do need to put a tower in. I do realize that afterwards that there is no tower for this airport. I'm like, oh, okay, I probably should have added that. So I might, have a search through the workshop and find one, and then add that later, and then show you guys at a later time. But yeah, as I said, I'm really happy. Like, you know, the footpaths are nice and full of people, the car parks are full, the trains are being used, the trams are being used, and it's always nice when all of the metro stuff is there and you know, being functioned. I really do need to add buses and taxis though. Like, for some reason I completely forgot. I just blanked on it. And yeah, like, I still got to do that later, but I do plan at some point to overhaul all of my buses and my trains and stuff later anyway, so I might attach that. I do have taxi stands there, so, but I don't have any buses or anything coming in. I do need to add those. I do want to put a tourist bus in as well, because it's probably a good idea to have the tourist bus pick up at the airport. But yeah, so once again, guys, thank you so much if you're still sticking around. This has been a much bigger episode than I normally do, and the reason for that is, unfortunately, next week, I cannot make another video. I will be overseas on holiday. I'm going to the lovely snowy town of Queenstown in the South Island of New Zealand. I actually grew up in New Zealand, so I'm going to go visit some family, and it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be freaking cold, especially for someone like myself from Queensland, which is generally a tropical climate. So I'm definitely not looking forward to that. I had to go out and buy a whole bunch of new clothes because it's going to be freaking freezing down there. But that's what I'll be doing next week, so unfortunately I won't have time to get to my computer. I'll be out gallivanting and doing touristy stuff. But once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you like the video, please like it. If you don't, please don't. If you have a comment, please leave a comment. I will read them. I will reply to them. I even replied to a dude the other day in Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese, dude. I just use Google Translate. But hey, thank you so much for, like, you know, commenting on my video. You're the best. You're my best friend. So yeah, thank you once again, guys, for watching. And once again, oh no, I won't. I will see you next Friday after next.
Hey Larry, where's the forklift? Forklift? It's over there by the baggage loader.